Alright, hello and welcome back to a new installment of Random Thoughts from a Crazy Girl's Mind. Today I am going to talk a little bit more about something I've kind of touched on before, and that is atheism. More specifically, the public perception of atheists and atheism. As I've said before, I'm an atheist, and I don't consider that something to be necessarily a defining factor about me, but I think that there are other defining factors about me that contribute to the fact that I am an atheist, if that makes any kind of sense. It might not. But anyway, the reason that I've been thinking about this is there was a recent, poll that I saw that showed basically when it comes to electing a public official, almost half of people said that they would not vote for someone because they were an atheist. And that was the most any group got. I mean, people said that they would vote for a Mormon, a gay, a lesbian, a woman. I mean, pretty much anything before they would vote for an atheist. A lot of people. So I was thinking about that, and it's something that is obviously pretty near and dear to my heart because I feel like, well, I'm never going to run for public office. I feel like people are still kind of judging me and other atheists based on just the fact of our atheism alone, which I think is a little ridiculous, to be honest. I don't really judge people for their religious beliefs alone. I might judge people for the things they do based on their religious beliefs, but to just say, well, that person is a Hindu, so I don't, they could never be right, or they must be a bad person intrinsically. And so it got me to thinking about it, and I think there's a couple factors playing into this. One is there's this fear of atheists from the faithful, the so-called faithful, which a lot of people in America are, or like to think that they are. I'm not going to get into that, but and the reason that there's a fear is because there's a whole group of people now, atheists, who are out there living a life not dictated by these rules that these people are following and giving their whole lives to, and that scares them because that means, I think it introduces this possibility of what if we're wrong, or what if I lose my faith, because to a lot of people that faith is like their grounding thing, and they're scared of losing it, and they see atheists, and that's people who in their mind have lost their faith for whatever reason, or maybe never had it, and that scares them because they don't want to be there. They don't want to lose that rock in their life, and they don't want to lose that center, or that faith in God that has gotten them through, X, Y, and Z. I think that is somewhat understandable, but frankly bullshit. Because, one, if you actually talk to atheists, most of them, I don't want to stereotype, but most atheists, and myself, I'll just speak for myself. Alright, as an atheist, I'm not out to deconvert people. I'm not out to knock people's faith away. If people want to believe whatever, if it gets them through their lives, that's, no skin off my back. And so just the fact that atheists exist is not an attack on your faith. It's just something different. So I think that's bullshit. And then also, I think if your own faith is so weak that you think the very existence of people who don't believe it is somehow a threat to your own faith, and that you might lose your faith, then your faith isn't that strong anyway. And that's not our fault. So that's kind of one facet of it, I think, is kind of that fear of, well, maybe there's a different way to live my life. I don't know. I could be wrong, but that's kind of what I'm seeing. Another thing I think is that I totally just lost my train of thought. So there's the fear of losing their own faith, and then I think there's also this kind of people have this idea that all their morals are grounded in their religion, and that people without a religion, therefore, don't have any morals, and are basically, out to, I don't know, murder, rape, steal, whatever they think that we do, eat babies in our free time. But that is also bullshit, because most religious people, their morals aren't actually grounded in their religion. Alright, I personally, I was raised a Christian, and so that is what I'm most familiar with, and that is what I usually will address when talking about religion, and merely because I'm most familiar with it. But so, for example, I have read the Bible, alright? Old Testament, New Testament, I've read it. and there's a lot of stuff in there that people are not following, and and they're okay with that, and it's, whatever you want to say, they're cherry picking the Bible or whatever, but people are making their own moral choices about what in their religion is important to them and what is not. And that's going to be different for every individual and for every denomination. I mean, like, you have the Catholics who, the Catholic Church says, hey, contraception is immoral. But then you have individual Catholics who are like, well, okay, it's probably more immoral for me to have a baby I can't take care of, or something like that. And there are countless examples of people actually making their own moral choices. And they might look for justification within the religion because they're not comfortable saying that they just made the choice themselves, or I don't know. I mean, I don't want to speak for what other people are thinking, but I think, so I do think that everyone actually has their own set of morals that maybe are influenced by religion, but in the end, everyone is making their own decisions as an individual about morality. So I don't think it's impossible for someone who doesn't have that religious base to still have a set of morals. Just because I don't believe in God doesn't mean that I don't believe in morals, or that I think I should just be able to do whatever I want. That doesn't even make sense. Like, and then there's also the flip side of this that you'll probably hear a lot, is that, well, if religion is the only thing giving you your morals, like, are you really saying that given your own way you would be doing all these terrible things? Like, like if God said, hey, do whatever you want, you would go out and murder people? Really? Well, one, I hope not, and two, I doubt it. I really doubt it. And so I think everyone's making their own individual moral decisions. And if you want to argue with an individual's moral decisions, then that's totally fair game. But to say that someone doesn't have morals at all because they don't have a religion is just bullshit. It's not true at all. And I mean, I see kind of how people make that association because they so closely associate their own morals with their religion, whether or not they actually are following the morals of their religion. But it's not true. So atheists, we have morals. They just don't come from God. So besides people being afraid of us and thinking that we don't have morals, why else would they not want to vote for us? I don't know. I think those are kind of the two big things that people think of. They're afraid for their own faith, and they're afraid that the atheists are immoral. Which both claims are bullshit. So I like to think I'm a moral person, and I certainly am not trying to knock anyone else's faith. So I don't know. That's just what I've been thinking about lately. I think it's kind of sad, and hopefully as people start to, I think there's a I don't want to say a problem, but there's a reluctance for people to identify themselves as atheists. Something about the word that scares people. Like, people want to say, oh, well, I don't believe in God, but I'm not an atheist. But that's what atheist means. It means you don't believe in God. So then we can get into the discussion of, well, do you not believe in God, or do you believe there's not a God, and what's the difference? All right, that is semantics. I really don't think we need a hair split over that. Just talking in general, all-encompassing. On one side you have a theist who believes in God, and then the other side you have an atheist who by definition does not believe in God. There's a lot of other places on that spectrum you can fall, however you want to define it, but I'm just thinking pretty simply for my purposes. And now I totally lost my train of thought again. Oh, shit. This is why semantics arguments are not good, because they just totally derail you from the actual point that you're trying to make. Well, I guess it was not that important of a point to be made in the first place. Oh, right, okay, so there's a reluctance of people to identify with the word atheist, because it's seen as like a bad word. But then they still kind of fall under the definition of an atheist, where they are not atheist. So, and I think that's a problem, because then it kind of makes it okay to hate on this group that does identify with the label of atheist, or who other people label as atheist because they fall in the definition, whether or not that person self-identifies as an atheist. And so I think the way to combat that is to not be ashamed to say, you know what, I'm an atheist. And that's something that I try to do. I don't make a big deal about it to people, but when they ask, I am totally okay with saying, yeah, I'm an atheist. So, I mean, what of it? And I do have a bumper sticker on my car. It just says atheist, has a smiley face, because I like to think that I'm a happy person, and I would like other people to know that just because I'm an atheist, I'm not bitter and angry and that I exist, because a lot of people just don't think that they know any atheists, when in reality most people do know atheists. And so people compare this all the time to kind of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender movement, and people coming out of the closet as an atheist. And I mean, terminology, I don't know, whatever, but I think that's a good thing. I think more people should be out there saying, hey, you know what, I'm an atheist, and it doesn't matter, it's not important, it's not relevant to who I am as a person. Or, I mean, maybe it's relevant, but it doesn't define who I am as a person, and does not make me a moral, evil, person who's out to destroy all the theists or something like that. And I think as people get more comfortable with the idea that there are atheists in this country, in fact there are quite a lot of atheists in this country, we are a significant minority. We're not just the fringe guy, who you think of burning Bibles or something. I mean, I don't know anyone who does that. But so I think that sort of hatred or unwillingness to see an atheist as a person will be dissipated when people actually know people. And so right now, I think when people look at that poll and think, would you vote for an atheist? They say, no. Atheists are evil, they're out to get us, they're immoral, and, who cares about atheists? It's just some, evil, monolithic, straw man that they have set up. Whereas, once people start to actually know people who are atheists, they would see a question like that and say, would you vote for an atheist? And think, hey, Nora's an atheist, she's not that bad, maybe I'd vote for her. Okay, yeah, maybe that's not a disqualification right off the bat. So, that's my thoughts today on why people don't want to vote for atheists, and I don't know, kind of rambled a little bit, but I hope you enjoyed it anyway. And as always, please feel free to leave comments. Let me know if there's something you're interested in hearing me talk about, and anything. Alright, until next time.